Nikolich on your left, Davis on your right, number 8 and number 4 respectively here on the SCG Tour. I'll give you Ben's deck list. I'll take Jim's. Looks like Ben's going to take a mulligan down to 6 cards here, so we'll be looking at a smaller opening hand.
Now, Jim's list here of miracles, remember, no copies of Counterbalance. He's playing 2 main deck copies of Back to Basics. This is essentially a blue-white control deck. A couple main deck copies of Monastery Mentor, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Snapcaster Mage, and then Counterspell, Removal, Card Drawing, etc. The only miracle spell in here, I believe, is Terminus. No copies of Entreat the Angels.
Though a couple sneaky copies of Back to Basics.
Yeah.
Which I'm into. I like it. Nikolich is going to take a look at 6 cards here.
So right now, the players in the standings right now, among a sea of X and 3s, Benjamin Nikolich in 11th place and Jim Davis in 12th. So not a guarantee that a win here is even good enough for either one of these players. I expect the winner to finish either 8th or 9th place would be my guess. But again, we'll only know that until the round sorts itself out. There's a lot of weird stuff that can happen with tiebreakers, pairings, unintentional draws that can have cascading consequences.
Nikolich down to 5. And Jim with a Monarch token. Jim wants to be the Monarch. Jim, at our last SCG Tour event, lost playing for top 8. He is somewhat infamous for doing this. Did it a lot last year, too. It was a frustrating year for Jim Davis last year. But still sees continued success here on the SCG Tour, and certainly through his writing and streaming as well, as Nikolich is going to take a look at 5 cards. For Nikolich, pretty young kid, starting to really make a name for himself here on the SCG Tour, mostly through Modern, with the Jeskai control deck that he put on the map, but I think we'll see more of that, but with Jace the Mind Sculptor now. Pretty exciting. We'll see if he's happy with this hand as he's thinking things through.
I think it might be a no-lander.
Oh, how lucky do we have to get? He'll scry. He'll leave it on top. Players have been given the green light. We're underway here in round 15. Davis with an island and a portent.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
if you're putting scries on top,
obviously,
scries on top,
you are a maniac.
Give him a shuffle.
You are a maniac. Obviously, you want to portent them on turn 1.
He scry to the top.
I saw. Portent is bad for you. Is this going to go in your blue-red Delver deck too?
Definitely.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. Portent with Bomat Courier? Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's coming and going. Yeah. That's like every...
It's a lot to keep track of. Here's Gataxian Probe, Davis' hand, Plains, a Misty Rainforest, a Flooded Strand, Windswept Heath, Force of Will, Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Very land heavy here, but keep in mind that Davis selected not to shuffle with his copy of Portent, and he's got a couple fetch lands there to manipulate things. If he has a spell that on top that's valuable and a land past that, he draws a spell, shuffles away the land.
Nikolich will record all this information, fall down to 18 in the process. He'll draw a card, might even see him fall down to 17 here in just a moment. He'll just pass the turn back for now. Jim will pick up his hand. He'll untap the island, and he'll draw a card. Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
We can really build you the most do-nothing blue-red deck of all time.
Yeah, this is, but with Goblin Guides and Delver Secrets.
Yeah.
And then just the tier 2 cantrips.
Jim with a predict in response to a Flooded Strand sack.
Not dazing this. Oh my.
Yep, can't daze it. 2 cards coming for JD.
God. How do I play this deck?
It's out here.
I can't handle this.
Just out here doing a whole bunch of nothing.
Everything I want to do.
Volcanic Island. Here's a Ponder.
My appetite is largely for lava spikes, and then after that, just tire spinning.
Yeah. Just out here doing nothing.
I'm going to manipulate my draw step a ton and spend a lot of mana, and eventually I'll be up somewhere around 50% of a card.
That's perfect. This is why you and Kevin Jones are such boys.
Yeah.
Because you guys just
we have the same appetite.
Just doing nothing. Jace the Mind Sculptor, the draw. Jim might be thinking Brainstorm now. And he is.
Very land-heavy hand here, and he can shuffle, so this is a good time for Brainstorm.
3 cards on the way. Looks like Flusterstorm among them. 1 in his main deck here this weekend. Looks like a couple of lands are going to go back on top. And as you did mention, he can shuffle them away. Brainstorm done resolving. Fetch land potentially on the way here for Jim. And he's leaning towards Misty. And pass the turn back over Nikolich, who will untap and take a draw step. Delver, it looks like. Could be a Daze. And here's a Brainstorm. Brainstorm will resolve here for Ben. He'll draw Young Pyromancer, Flooded Strand.
Thank goodness for Nikolich there that third card was a Flooded Strand, because if he got Brainstorm locked in, it's a land drop.
It's game.
I think he's still in a lot of trouble, but he can at least proceed from here.
Well, Jace is looking to show up here real soon. And given Nikolich's lack of resources, could end things pretty quickly. There's a Flooded Strand. Pass that turn back will Ben. Jim will sacrifice a fetch land. Going to fall down to 19. Shuffle away those cards he put away. We'll see what land he wants to search for. Again, he's very basic heavy. Only playing 1 Tundra in his Miracles deck.
Yeah, back to basics makes it really prohibitive to play any non-basic lands that tap for mana. The 1 Tundra probably, I would guess even that is like barely above the line to be in the deck.
Force of Will to draw. Does he want to go for Jace now is the question.
I think with Flusterstorm in hand, just give it a turn.
Not in the biggest rush?
It naturally plays around Daze to have the mana up, and you can fight back over Force of Will or Spell Pierce or what have you.
Jim is somewhat known for being pretty patient with his big plays. I think the days of Standard when he used to play blue-white control. And he'll just pass the turn back. He knows he's not in a rush because there's no pressure.
And since Nikolich has been missing land drops and now shuffled away with Brainstorm, there's probably a fair amount of permission in Nikolich's hand, so there's no rush to run the Jace out there. You probably want to pick a battle at some point where you're happy just with the raw resource exchange, and with the second Jace in hand, then you can take it from there.
And Nikolich will draw. There's Misty. So starting to work himself out of these mana issues that he was having. This is an attempt at Young Pyromancer. See if Davis wants to fight over this.
You'd imagine so. The Young Pyromancer is one of the better threats you can play against Jace the Mind Sculptor.
There is Force of Will. It looks like Jim exiled Force of Will. On his end step, he's going to play Snapcaster Mage into a Brainstorm if it resolves, most likely. And there is Brainstorm. So 3 cards coming here for Davis, assuming Brainstorm resolves. And it will. 2 and 3. 3 lands he picked up, I think. He certainly doesn't need any more of those.
Yeah,
maybe you're actually a predict in there too.
Yeah, you put them on top.
Oh boy, here we go.
And then you on the upkeep you predict yourself.
Then what? Then what do you do?
You just draw 2 cards, and who knows? There's probably more predicts or portents in there.
Then you really keep it
What
going.
do you mean, what next?
Yeah.
I don't understand that question. Oh.
What do we think about that? Jim says no need to predict right now.
I guess, the predict will be set up somewhere down the line anyway.
Almost assuredly.
And if he has to draw a land as one of the 2 cards, then how much is that even really worth?
Jim is going to go with another Plains here.
Keep in mind, Davis with 2 main deck copies of Back to Basics here as well, which would be, I wouldn't say exactly a KO should he draw it, but
Pretty good.
pretty close.
Swords of Plowshares the draw. In for 2. Players making sure they got the life totals correct here. So we work our way to about 42 minutes here in the match. Here's Jace the Mind Sculptor with the mana up to pay for days, and the mana to be able to cast Flusterstorm. Nikolich is going to start by sacrificing a Misty Rainforest.
Pretty good trade here for Nikolich if he has a Spell Pierce. See if that's the card here. If it's Force of Will and it gets tagged by a Flusterstorm, that's pretty rough. A Spell Pierce trading for a Flusterstorm isn't the worst thing, but ultimately Nikolich does need to win the fight over this Jace.
Here is Spell Pierce. Flusterstorm, I'm going to go after the Spell Pierce. Daze will take care of the Jace. A little bit of a resource exchange there, but Jace is ultimately countered as Nikolich draws a land for the turn.
Really good spot there for Spell Pierce. Nikolich ended up being able to win that exchange without having to deploy a Force of Will, which is a big win.
Here's True Name Nemesis. Benjamin says, you. Jim, going to draw a card. It's not Terminus. It's a copy of Force of Will. True Name Nemesis starts to makes things a little bit more complicated.
Yep, it's a big one for Nikolich to sneak through here. Davis still has copies of Terminus in the deck to answer it, but it does make the Planeswalker route a lot more problematic. If you play Jason Brainstorm, then your Jace just dies the following turn. If you Fate Seal, then you're looking at losing it a few turns from now and not really extracting much in the way of cards. So for Nikolich, mulliganing to 5 and missing land drops early on, and he's got himself into a reasonable position here.
Yeah, Jim's deck has done a lot of spinning of its tires. This here is Jace. And Jim is going to Fate Seal himself.
Yeah, I like Davis Fate Sealing himself here because the real prize is Terminus. There's not really any one particular draw in Nikolich's deck that you're trying to cut him off of right now, but if you're able to find Terminus, then your Jace is protected, and it shouldn't be that hard to run away with the game from there.
Nikolich will draw a card. He does have Force of Will in his hand. I think a blue card paired with it. True Name Nemesis is going to bring Jace down to 2. The red card in Nikolich's hand is actually a copy of Young Pyromancer.
I mean, this is risky business because Davis left on top, and since he's drawing so heavy to Terminus, it seems likely you're just getting another creature in the mix there for your trouble.
There it is. And this was the concern. Here is Terminus. Nikolich's hand is Force of Will, exiling a Spell Pierce. Jim has Force of Will. I know it's painful for you, Patrick, exiling Predict.
Yeah, I know, but, it is over a Terminus that locks the game up for Davis, so
yeah,
I'm okay with getting rid of it.
And Jim has already drawn for his turn, of course. That was the Terminus. So now he has an active Jace, and I think in this instance, he probably wants to Fate Seal to get out of bolt range.
Right, you can Fate Seal here, go up to 4, and then once you're covered from Lightning Bolt, you start brainstorming, and that's when you run away with your resource advantage. But I like taking 1 turn off here, get the Jace up to 4, and it really cuts off Nikolich's draws that can answer a Jace.
Jim is going to put the top card to the bottom there for Nikolich. Did not like what he saw. Nikolich is going to untap those couple of lands. He'll draw a card. He'll just pass the turn back. Jace is at 4, and now the brainstorming begins. 2, 3. Couple of fetch lands in there. There's also a Brainstorm 2. A redundant copy of Swords of Plowshares. Looks like Jim is going to put that back on top of his deck. Actually, it looks like he's going to put 2 fetch lands. He's a little indecisive right now, is Davis.
Yeah, his cards are so good. Maybe he wants a wash to speed up the game a little bit, but also, shuffling away a Brainstorm in this spot. Don't know how much sense that makes. Davis taking his time.
Nikolich did find a Lightning Bolt here, but Jace is conveniently at 4 loyalty. So Davis will sacrifice his Flooded Strand. He'll search up another basic island. You can see his mana base. It's very clear what's going on here. Does not want to be wastelanded, Blood Mooned. He plays his own copies of Back to Basics. Pretty pain-free. As Jim will draw. Picked up a copy of Portent. He will brainstorm. One thing you'll find when you do watch Jim Davis play Magic, as he's found 2 copies of Back to Basics and a Search for Escanta, is that once he actually starts to get into the driver's seat, the pace of play will certainly pick up.
Well, it's a skill you really have to develop as someone who plays slower decks. Is, you know, you have to take your time, obviously, and when the turns are hard, that's important. But once you actually have a sizable advantage, you've got to play faster because the time is your enemy.
Jim is going to cast Portent on Ben, which I kind of like, and Ben says no more, thank you. Not going to be able to beat this Jace in combination with Back to Basics and everything else you've got going on. So Jim Davis is going to win game number 1 here over Benjamin Nikolich. Miracles up a game here over Grixis Delver with about 36 minutes left to go. These players will go to the sideboards. We'll be doing the same here in just a minute, but first, a few messages from our sponsors. Welcome back, everybody. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan. We are here in the booth watching Benjamin Nikolich play Grixis Delver against Jim Davis, playing Miracles. Davis able to win game number 1 off the back of a Nikolich. Looks like taking a couple of mulligans in game 1, but they will be starting game number 2 here in just a moment. Do want to take a moment to go over their sideboards. We'll start with Ben, who's got 3 Cabal Therapy, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Diabolic Edict, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Marsh Casualties, Liliana the Last Hope, Pithing Needle.
So I like bringing in the Pyroblast, the Cabal Therapies, and the 1 copy of Pithing Needle here as a way to fight over Jace the Mind Sculptor.
For Jim, with his 2 Flusterstorms, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Disenchant, 2 V-Click, 2 Containment Priest, another copy of Search for Escanta, a Council's Judgment, a Rest in Peace, and a solo Caracas.
I think Davis's main deck is pretty well set up here. I don't know how much sideboard he's going to want to do. I could see bringing in an extra Search for Escanta and a Council's Judgment, maybe the Vendilion Clicks, maybe the Flusterstorms, but I think Davis's work is mostly in the main deck here.
Well, those are the options there for both players, and they will be given the green light as they've already lit their opening hands. They're happy, and we're happy to watch them. A Gataxian Probe is going to reveal Jim's hand. Portent, Snapcaster Mage, Ponder Terminus, Swords of Plowshares, Plains, and a Windswept Heath.
Very good for Nikolich to know about the Terminus here, not necessarily because Davis is planning on casting it, but because it changes the valuation of Brainstorms in the future. He knows that could be something floating around.
Didn't think we'd see the days where Portent was being cast in Legacy.
There's a lesson here about you just get used to playing with the best stuff, and the next best options are still good enough. There's just no reason to play with them when you can play with the best things.
Flooded Strand will be sacrificed here by Nikolich. He'll fall down to 17. 2 from the probe, 1 from the fetch. That's an Underground Sea. And we'll see what his first play will be. Looks like he's going to lead with Delver of Secrets. And Davis will scoop up his hand. Nikolich will get his Delver out of his box. And let's go back over to DJ JD. It'll be an island, and it'll be a Ponder from Jim. Monastery Mentor, Ponder, and Snapcaster Mage, the cards that Jim is looking at here.
This is effectively, if he can take a full shuffle here. Alternatively, he can draw the Ponder, draw the Snapcaster Mage, and then reevaluate the Monastery Mentor based on the next cantrips that he sets up.
He'll draw. Keep with the Mentor.
He wants the Mentor, okay. I thought his hand was maybe a little clunky for that, but.
Delver in for 1. No transform just yet. That'll be a Misty there for Ben. And now a Deathrite Shaman. And he'll pass the turn back over to Jim. Jim will draw. He's found a Ponder. Looks like Windswept Heath at the ready.
So it looks like the Snapcaster Mage, the card that he was thinking about shuffling away, which makes some sense with the Snapcaster already at hand. But again, I'm a little surprised by his interest in Monastery Mentor.
There's Source of Plowshares. I'm doing that to play around days, of course.
Yep. And now you might see Davis here follow up with the cantrip. He doesn't really mind if the cantrips get dazed, but it's really important for him, obviously, to handle the creatures as they arrive.
And now here comes either Ponder or Portent. It'll be Ponder. That will resolve. Brainstorm, Flooded Strand, and a basic island. See if Jim is enthused about those cards or not.
This is a small thing, but I'm interested by Ponder over Portent in this spot because I'd rather lead with Portent when I don't have any mana left over. So the fact that I'm drawing the card next turn matters less. If you ponder so imagine you ponder when you're tapped out and then you draw a card and it doesn't matter. And then you Portent with open mana, you find something you want to draw, and you can't draw it right away. You have to wait a turn.
Sure. That all makes sense.
Although I guess the alternative is actually the Portent plays better with Terminus floating around. That's the spot where drawing the next turn
is better.
It's
better.
I don't really have my head around the cantrip operations with this deck. In theory, I think it makes sense to Portent when you're tapped out because it doesn't matter that you're drawing the card the next turn, but Terminus makes it trickier.
Especially when you need a Terminus.
Right,
yeah.
So.
Which he doesn't need yet, but we saw it come up in the last game.
Yeah. It speaks to how complicated the format is, where you can really go down the rabbit hole with Portent versus Ponder on a particular turn when it feels like, well, I don't know, it's the same card, right?
Yeah. But they're not.
What's the difference?
Yeah. And it's also worth noting, too, that we talk about Portent in this deck, and this is a deck that's not playing Preordain.
You're right.
You know, which is obviously a fantastic cantrip. Much too good for Modern. But Portent is the better card here, it appears. This is a Liliana, the Last Hope. That will resolve.
So I think the concern here from Davis's side, it's not so much about getting the creatures out of the graveyard. Most of Davis's removal either exiles or puts on the bottom of the opposing deck. But his deck is not good against a Liliana Ultimate. He does have to do something at some point about this. So it's not right now. It's not immediate. He doesn't have to worry about the pluses or minus. But he does have to answer this before Nikolich is able to go Ultimate.
Well, he's got one Council's Judgment in his main. I'm trying to see what else he's got to take care of this
I think
thing.
He's got another in his board.
No one more in his board. Vendilion Click can sort of check it.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough way to do it, yeah. In for 3. So we got the Liliana the Lasso kind of sub-game over here, along with the main game of Delaware Secrets. Punching Jim in the face a bunch. And Jim's going to sacrifice that Flooded Strand, fall down to 11 now. Get a basic island. He'll tap 2 mana real quick. This will be a Snapcaster Mage with an attempt on Swords of Plowshares. Keep in mind, Jim does have that Monastery Mentor in hand. That could be part of the plan as well.
Yeah, he's got ways to attack it down. He's got a couple clean answers. But he can't let it go ultimate. And the game's not really manageable. Even Jace the Mind Sculptor isn't going to save you if he's able to get to that emblem.
So Swords of Plowshares will take care of the Delver. Jim's going to untap those 3 lands. He'll draw a card now. Nikolich putting on some nice pressure here with the Liliana, coming from a few different angles of attack. Jim plays the Plains, attacks the Liliana. Snapcaster Mage will fall down. Well, knock Liliana down, excuse me, to 3. And now Jim looks like he wants to follow up with Monastery Mentor.
Yep, Monastery Mentor, follow that up with a cantrip. And then you're going wide here. You're putting a lot of pressure on that Liliana. And it's safe to assume that Nikolich doesn't have a whole lot of creature removal left in his deck post-board.
Well, he'll use a Force of Will, exiling a Daze as his creature removal right now. We'll see if Davis will have a response. He will not, so Monastery Mentor is handled. Jim is going to follow up now with one of these cantrips. He's got a Portent, a Brainstorm, and a Ponder, so he'll go with Portent. Target himself, so he'll look at the top couple of cards of Brainstorm, Back to Basics, and a Plains.
So this is a really powerful assortment of cards. None of this is an answer to the Liliana. Now, by getting in that Snapcaster Mage hit, you have bought yourself several turns. But I think Davis is really on the hunt here for a Council's Judgment or some smattering of creatures that allows him to continue to pressure the Liliana.
And he draws his card with Portent on Nikolich's turn. Liliana's going to plus take care of Snapcaster Mage. That'll go straight to the graveyard. And Nikolich with just a couple cards in hand. Looks like one of them might be a Gurmag Angler.
I think he has 2 Gurmags.
Okay. He'll play Gurmag Angler. He'll ice his entire graveyard to play the 5/5 Big Fish. Pass the turn. Go back over to JD. And JD will draw. It's a Back to Basics. It's not so bad.
Well, these are all pieces of the puzzle that will lock up the game for Davis in the event that he can answer the Liliana. Still going to come down to that.
Here is Brainstorm. 3 cards on the way here for Davis. Jason's Swords among them, along with Portent, so 2 will have to go back. Not so bad there for Jim. Maybe it's time to consider putting Terminus back. Maybe he's okay with taking a hit. It'll be interesting to see as he moves things around a little bit here.
Right, the clock is ticking in such a way here on Davis that he might have to shuffle away a Terminus. It might become so high leverage for him to find Council's Judgment or whatever his other removal spells are, or just time with something like Snapcaster Mage, that even Terminus on the Gurmag Angler is just not an appropriate use of time and resources.
Well, he does shuffle away, looks like a Terminus, via Flooded Strand. Going to get 9 out of his deck, so he's got access to 4 untapped mana now. He's going to follow up with Swords to Plowshares on Gurmag Angler. Nikolich will gain some life, but Nikolich's life total is fairly irrelevant in the matchup. Davis is just trying to keep his head above water. Jim with Ponder, Portent, and Jace in hand right now. He does not know the top of his deck.
And see, interesting here that Davis got away from the Back to Basics. I think the thinking here is, if I can get this Liliana off the table, I'm so far ahead that it doesn't matter. And if I can't get the Liliana off the table, this Back to Basics won't save me.
Portent, Swords of Plowshares, Terminus are the cards that Jim is looking at, and he's going to shuffle again.
Yeah, I mean, you can see Davis knows exactly what the stakes are right now. He's a huge favorite to win this game if he can get the Liliana off the table inside of a couple turns, and failing that, his whole deck isn't going to be good enough.
Well, he'll draw a card. Found a Tundra. Now he's going to go to Portent. The cantripping is beginning. Here's Back to Basics. That's Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's a Plains.
It's going to be another shuffle, I think. If he got rid of Back to Basics the first time around when he could have cast it in the same turn, I have to imagine this isn't good enough either.
That's the question. What's changed here for Jim is he's going to go back and forth and say, these are my draws. Here's how Liliana will interact. You working up towards that ultimate, that's the only thing that matters right now. I can basically handle everything else.
Yeah, the question is, I guess, is could you try to manage the game with Terminus and Jace the Mind Sculptor and get to a Jace ultimate before you got overrun by zombies? That strikes me as unlikely.
Well, he's going to keep it.
Okay, interesting.
Now he'll draw a portent. All right. Nikolich will draw.
It's interesting because that allotment of cards that he just kept strikes me as weaker than some of the ones that got shuffled away over these iterations. So I'm interested to see what changed from Davis's side.
It's ponder time. Looks like Nikolich is going to keep. Here's surgical extraction. What do we name here? Well, what do we target? Pardon me. Going to go with Monastery Mentor. It's actually kind of funny because I think that Jim is better served to have his deck shuffled now.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure exactly what Davis's line of thinking was. He clearly has a plan in mind. My instinct here was that that's a shuffle right there on the previous turn, which Davis kept, but now it's just shuffled anyway. So.
And now Cabal Therapy is going to hit Jace. It's pretty big there from Nikolich.
Definitely.
Liliana up to 5. Davis will draw. That, I believe, was a Terminus, and it was. So now Nikolich's Liliana is going to go up to 6. Where does he want to start, though? True Name? That resolves. Okay. Up to 6. Pass the turn back. Davis will draw. Any Council's Judgments to be had. Brainstorm is the draw right now. Jim can save that for a turn if you'd like.
I mean, I think the question, does he have any copies of Council's Judgment in the deck? I think
he has at least one.
I think if you do, you just have to go for it this turn.
He has at least one. Terminus.
He does have Terminus in the deck, but I think the game just becomes unmanageable in the long term if Liliana goes ultimate. And so you've got to give yourself a shot at it.
He's going to sacrifice the fetch line. I think we're going to see him hardcast Terminus here. The one that's in his hand. Yep, hardcast that. Put your name on the bottom. Pass the turn back. And now Nikolich is going to untap and draw a card. He will play his Ponder that he's peeled. Look at the top 3 as Jim does shuffle. Surgical Extraction among those cards. Nikolich really hoping to fade that Council's Judgment to get to that Liliana ultimate. If he can do that, game's going to be looking pretty darn good. Nikolich going to keep here with the Ponder. And now it's a Deathrite Shaman. Davis is untapping, looking for Council's Judgment. He didn't find it. Swords will take care of that. And now we're going to see exactly how good this Miracles deck is. Because there's a horde of zombies that'll be on the way here, folks. He's going to cash it in. So there's your Liliana emblem. Here's a Ponder. Ponder will resolve. And 1, and 2, and 3. Certainly does make a little bit of sense here to find Surgical Extraction and take care of Terminus.
I don't know exactly what Davis's plan is from here. I think he should strongly consider conceding this game.
Just get to the third one?
Maybe you take one more draw step, but I just don't. I don't know what the hope is for winning the game at this point.
Here's Mendelian Click. Yeah, I do agree with you. The time is valuable. And also, if I'm being honest, I kind of want to keep Mendelian Click
he's tapping.
hidden. He is tapping. Maybe get a little information from Ben.
Yep.
With his draw step. Maybe he drew something. So, yeah, Jim is going to concede the game. Right. You see, we're going to be out 18 minutes.
You've already been surgical, so he knows your deck.
True. Yep.
You might as well take a look.
Very true, very true. Yeah, the Mendelian Click is not a secret because of the surgical. Good point. Both players going to go back to the drawing board here for game number 3. Time is of the essence as they play for top 8. And while they get ready for their third and final game of the Swiss, we take a quick commercial break. away we are about to go here. Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan, we're here in the booth. Nick Miller's over on the sideboard getting us ready here for our top 8 in about an hour from now. As we watch 2 players that could be playing top 8, Benjamin Nikolich, Jim Davis. Winner of this match should be good, but tiebreakers are wonky here this weekend, so we can't say anything with any amount of certainty. And the easiest way to solidify your top 8 status is to win and cross your fingers here for Nikolich and Davis. And as they've shuffled, checked their sideboards, and presented, we've got about 16 minutes to go in the match between Grixis, Delver, and Miracles, and we'll see, I think, some pretty quick play between the 2 players, Patrick. And Davis will be on the play here. Jim will keep. Nikolich will as well. Game 3. Mr. Rainforest going to go to the graveyard here for Nikolich. He'll go down to 19. Jim's hand does look pretty good. Got a Swords of Plowshares over there. Predict Jace the Mind Sculptor, a couple of lands.
Booster draft of the day, please make your way to the site event registration stage.
And here's a Delver of Secrets. Davis will draw a card. Picked up a copy of Back to Basics. That one could matter.
Yes. It's a very, very quick way for Davis to shut out this game.
Checking with Delver. Cabal Therapy. Okay. And Davis could run into a Spell Pierce here.
Well, his hand's going to get, I mean, his hand's likely to get forced anyway by the therapy if he's pausing, so.
He's actually going to go with
Oh,
Predicts.
yes.
You
Yes.
are really something.
Because he knows.
He knows
what the card is. You get that?
I think I got it. Yeah, it's a brainstorm. Cabal Therapy, Underground Sea, and a Flooded Strand. We could have some real fun here in a moment.
Yeah, this is some cat and mouse action coming.
If Jim Davis hits with this Predict, he is some kind of master.
Remember, no knowledge about
Zero.
the hand.
Yep.
He knows that there was a Cabal Therapy on top.
Mm-hmm.
That is it.
Looks like he's going to set a Young Pyromancer Underground Sea. Snap him off, Jim.
Come on.
Name a card.
Come on.
Jim will get to draw.
Okay.
Just one. All right. Nikolich will attack for 3.
Before we post the standings and pairings, I have a few announcements I'd like to make, specifically regarding how you may determine the
See if we'll see a Cabal Therapy here.
in this tournament.
It's got the probe to lead with, so.
It's a combo now.
It is illegal to offer anything
Back to Basics, Swords of Plowshares, Jace the Mind Sculptor, along with Misty Rainforest, Flooded Strand, and a Plains.
Prizes, prize kits, other objects from outside of the game. I'd also like to remind you that it is illegal to use any random or outside the game method to determine a winner.
Tropical Island draw.
That includes rolling a die, flipping a coin. It also includes
And I'll sacrifice a I'll sacrifice a Flooded Strand. Probably Underground Sea on the way for the Cabal Therapy here.
Yeah. And if he's tapping out here for the therapy, I think the first order of business has got to be the Back to Basics.
Feels like it.
If you have any questions about this policy, I would encourage you to consult a
There is therapy. Back to Basics down.
that could be construed as an offer. At this time, Legacy Classic players' pairings for the round 7 are available online.
About 12 minutes to go here.
Standings and pairings will be on their way to the pairings boards momentarily. Please do make way for the judges as they do need to get to
Wonder if he's considering a flashback here on Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Gonna make the hand pretty bad. Yeah.
He's got a Young Pyromancer in hand, so I think you just want to wait.
Davis picked up a copy of Ponder. I think he's going to start with Ponder. So there it is. Monastery Mentor, Terminus, and Misty Rainforest.
With the clock an issue here and Nikolich's start, feels like a good spot for Monastery Mentor.
I'm with you on that one. Dave's going to draw a Monastery Mentor, Terminus on top of the deck. There's Misty Rainforest. This is an attempted Swords to Plowshares on the Insect operation that will resolve. Pass the turn back. And now Jim actually has the ability to control the top of his library with the fetch land. He can leave Terminus on top, have it be a draw step, or he can fetch it away and draw a new card. So pretty good positioning here for Davis, it appears. That is a Scalding Tarn. And he's thinking young Pyromancer here is Nikolich. He's going to start by sacrificing a fetch.
A nice setup here would be to go Young Pyromancer, cast a spell, flashback the therapy through your elemental token. Name, I would imagine Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Strikes me as a pretty good name.
There are a number of easy ways to force us to disqualify you from this tournament. They include offering something.
That is a Young Pyromancer. This is a Lightning Bolt. Target you, make a token.
I'd also like to remind everyone that if you are aware of such an offer, if you overhear such an offer, if such an offer is made to you, you must call the judge as well, or risk being considered culpable.
Players are going to make sure the life totals are correct.
It looks like we're all in our seats.
And now here's Cabal Therapy.
Round 7 of the Legacy Classic. You have 50 minutes.
Going to name Jace, of course. So there you see Monastery Mentor, Terminus on top of the deck. That's it. So we're going to go to Jim. Jim is going to reveal Terminus right now. And that is going to work just fine because Nikolich does have a Force Will in hand, but he does not have a blue card to go along with it.
If Davis can find a cantrip next turn, something to pair with a Monastery Mentor, that might be good to start running away with this game.
9 minutes to go. I think that may have been True Name Nemesis.
True Name is perfect here. I mean, you had to give up on Force of Will for one turn if you do it. And Nikolich might feel safer just playing Young Pyromancer and leaving Force plus blue card.
Clearly he does.
If you draw a blue card the following turn, now you can play your True Name Nemesis, it's safe.
Davis with Monastery Mentor as the only relevant card in his hand. He's going to sacrifice the fetch line and go down to 12. Yeah, one thing that keeping that True Name Nemesis in combination of Force Will does gives Benjamin some nice cover against Jace as a top deck.
Right. And also, he can't feel that comfortable about racing Monastery Mentor. If Davis plays Monastery Mentor and draws a cantrip, he might run wild over your True Name Nemesis. That might not be good enough.
Council's Judgment to draw. Will Jim deploy Monastery Mentor on this battlefield?
What else are you gonna? Are you just gonna Council's Judgment away the True Name Nemesis, or the Young Pyromancer rather?
That answers that question. Force of Will. All right. Get an elemental token. So Nikolich's hand is more or less empty now.
It's just a trop.
Yep. Which Jim does not know. Nikolich will draw. Picked up a bolt. All right. Pressure's on. Attack for 3. Davis down to 9. Davis will draw. Terminus wouldn't be bad. Counterspell is okay.
Yeah, it's not the worst draw.
Here's Council's Judgment. Nikolich is going to fire up a bolt. I think he might have to counter this bolt, by the way.
And send him to 6, then down to 4.
And the fetch line is theoretically 3.
This is really close. I don't know. I think this counterspell just amounts to... This bolt is maybe 1 or 2 draw steps less, and Davis's deck has so many redraws, so many cantrips. My instinct here is to counterspell. I'm not confident this is correct, but I think maybe if Davis is at 10, that could even be the point where you let it go, but...
Nikolich will untap and draw. A lot of big draws here for Nikolich, of course. Force of Will, not one of them. Going to get in here. put Davis down to 6. He'll play the Trop past the turn back. Jim will draw. He's got a million cantrips in his deck. We all know that. He's got 2 Terminus to draw to. He's got Snapcaster Mage. He's got a lot of goodies.
Yep. A ton of huge draws, but not that much time.
Pass turn back. To Nikolich will go. He picked up a Delver of Secrets. Puts you to 4. Now bolts are turning into real cards. Davis will draw. Well, Davis last turn drew a Brainstorm. Now he's trying to Ponder.
Showing a lot of discipline here.
He'll start with Brainstorm. Nikolich in his hands, Force Will and Delver of Secrets. By the by. Supreme Verdict among those cards.
Huge draw.
Yeah. Jim's got to put 2 cards back. I believe he's putting back Fetchland Predict with Predict on top.
You get it.
Here's Verdict.
This is a really great game.
Yeah.
We are watching right now.
That'll clean those up. Back over to Nikolich we go. I think he may have just drawn the real big fish.
Gurmag Angler's great draw here because it's a lethal threat and it allows him to keep the Force of Will also.
Maybe Nikolich's best draw in that instance, as Jim will draw, and he's picked up that Predict. So, where do we go now? I'm sure he'd like to start with Predict.
Force of Will plus blue card here on Nikolich's side. Davis is going to have to draw pretty much perfect here.
He'll Predict targeting himself. Scalding Tarn's going to go to the graveyard. 2 cards coming. Swords and Path, and he used a blue. Oh boy.
But he needs another white.
Well, I mean, he used a white. Excuse me. He used a white to cast Predict. He's going to start with Path.
Oh man. All right. So now he needs a Portent or Ponder rather into a white source.
Into a white source. Yep.
Any fetch land does it. Any plains does it.
And should he have pondered first?
No, you're looking at about the same number of cards, but you would just have certainty over.
Terminus, Snap, Island, Shuffle. Whew, boy. And you can see Jim shaking his head. I don't think he's happy with how he tapped his mana this turn.
I mean, drawing 2 white cards and the opponent having Force is that's the line where you get punished that way. He wanted to keep his blue mana for redraws.
Is it a fetch? Is a fetch. All right, he plays on. He plays on. He'll get himself a white source. He'll get a basic play until sorts it. All right. Jim down to 3, I believe, which means that bolts are live now.
And keep in mind, Nikolich can't cast Lily on the last hope should he draw it.
True.
He does not have double black.
Nikolich already used 2 bolts. He'll draw. How's he do? It's just a fetch. We'll go over to Jim. 3:30 on the clock. Jim didn't get a great look at his draw step. We know he's got some big ones, of course. That is a Monastery Mentor. He'll play that past the turn back. Over to Nikolich will go. He'll play a land, simply pass the turn back. Davis will draw. He's looking for spells. Cantrips are ideal. Monastery Mentor is going to come across for 2.
Nikolich has so much time here.
Nikolich draws, just passes the turn back again. Not sure what he has found. Davis will come across for 2 yet again. Pass the turn back. Nikolich draws. Force of Will. He'll pass to Jim. Jim draws Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Here we go.
Jim is not sure if he's going to play that land, but he will. He'll play Jace. That will make a Monk, also trigger Prowess. Nikolich is definitely countering this.
Yeah, I think that the combination of Spell Pierce plus Daze is enough to play the land ahead of time. If this Jace sticks, his position's really good.
He'll get in for 3 here. Mentor bringing along a Monk token. They'll show the Force of Will. There we go. Let's go back over to Nikolich as he untaps those 5 lands. Bolt is lethal this entire time. That's just the land, though. We go back over to Jim. Jim will draw. He'd love a cantrip. He found a Snapcaster Mage. That's not so bad.
You signed up for booster draft number 8.
Does he want to use Snapcaster Mage now? Does he want to wait on it? I guess that's a real question.
I kind of want to wait because the Snapcaster covers you against. With Swords of Plowshares, you're covered against the Bolt. I guess it doesn't matter.
There's an attack for 3. Nikolich down to 10. Most of Nikolich's creatures, for the record, are bad draws because Jim has Council's Judgment. Ben will draw. I think it may have been True Name, or maybe a cantrip. Just a cantrip and Gataxian Probe. Show you a Council's Judgment. New card coming here for Nikolich. He wants the red one in Lightning Bolt. I think it was just a flooded strand.
No, I think it was Deathrite Shaman, which I'm not even sure he can cast now because the prowess trigger off of the Monastery Mentor is too bad. I think he just has to say go, not cast his creature. Because the way things stand now, you got 3 turns. You're getting hit for 3 and you're at 9. You cast that Deathrite Shaman, now you're down to 2 turns at best.
Well, we're going to go back over to Jim Davis now. Jim draws a card. It's Flusterstorm. Seems all right, not great. I think Jim's trying to figure out if there's any shenanigans he can do with Council's Judgment and Flusterstorm. I think the answer is no. So just attack here for 3, put Nikolich down to 6. Any bolts for Ben? Doesn't look like it.
I mean, Nikolich just has to wait again and hope he doesn't get killed.
He's going to play Deathrite Shaman. What now? He'll play another Deathrite Shaman. Okay.
Okay.
Davis is untapping. And Davis is drawing. Davis is pounding Misty Rainforest. And I think you got to cast a Council's Judgment here.
I think he's just deciding whether or not he wants to put the Flusterstorm with the Council's Judgment.
Okay.
Just to get another prowess trigger.
So here's Council's Judgment. In a moment, I would not set that Fetchland. Here's Council's Judgment. And then he's going to target it with Flusterstorm. There's another monk. This will give him another monk. Okay. So this is for prowess triggers. All that jazz. Okay. Flusterstorm's targeting Flusterstorms. Copies for the record. Council Judgment will take care of that. Bunch of prowess triggers. This will be a lethal attack, which means Deathrite Shaman needs to block Monastery Mentor, which means 3 damage will come through, which means Nikolich is at 3. Any lightning bolts. Knocking that deck. Any lightning bolts. It's a Gurmag Angler. That is not going to do it. Jim Davis is going to win this match here over Benjamin Nikolich. 2-1. Miracles is going to hold on over Grixis Delver, and it's a timely brain.